Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where, as the WGA and the studio's latest round of negotiations stretches into their fifth and hopefully final day, it's becoming clear that the industry is beginning to run on fumes. We need that new sweet content, baby. Heck, with the major holiday of Yom Kippur starting at sundown today, and that's sundown in Los Angeles for this conversation, many in the industry have been hoping to have the WGA strike settled by then, as Tinseltown will basically go on break until Tuesday morning. So by the time this video is posted, maybe the WGA and the studios will have come to an agreement, because the Hollywood machine needs to get up and running again. Of course, SAG would also then need to be resolved, but the WGA would allow some deals to start to go through and for projects to start being written, or in some cases, rewritten. Marvel is waiting to rewrite like their entire upcoming slate. So there's stuff for people to do for the wheels to start turning, even though SAG would, of course, be the next hurdle to fully get up and running. And all the movies that we're filming when SAG went on strike would still remain on pause. But yeah, the box office, this is as good as the picket lines have been, as to showing how important it is to resolve this strike. Because the box office just delivered the worst weekend of 2023, right after the third worst weekend of the year, with the Super Bowl weekend, typically horrible, sandwiched in between them. As we've been discussing, these low box office numbers are partially due to streaming, which of course is part of the reason why the WGA and SAG are striking. Streaming has done a real number on Hollywood, without all the huge Netflix-esque profits that the studios had been hoping for. Stocks are going down, prices are going up. That's right, on Friday, Amazon Prime announced that starting in 2024, if you don't want any ads on your movies or shows, you're going to need to pay an additional $2.99 a month on top of your Prime membership. What? Are you going to keep, all the streaming services are raising their prices. It's just going to create a tumultuous sea of churning. But on the flip side, it's not like, or some of you say, you'll write it down below, me mateys. Okay, I don't want to actually say it. All right, but on the flip side, and a lot of people are saying this, just because there's some bad content out there doesn't mean that writers and actors don't deserve their pay. Because I think you're focusing, there's always crap coming out of Hollywood. It's always a mixed bag. But there's some truly incredible content as well. And that is also written and acted. All right, but right now, particularly with the movies that are in theaters, the new ones coming out, Hollywood isn't exactly putting out content. I know people don't like that word content, and I understand that, but as movies and TV play in more and more places, it does seem to be more content, right? And I don't know, it's weird. How do you feel about the word content? But I'm using it. All right, so anyway, that's what the industry is using, so I will use it. So they're not putting out content right now that demands to be seen on the big screen. Or in the case of the Expendables 4, demands to be seen at all. Whew! Such low scores across the board. Nobody liked this movie. Of the people that did come out to see the film, the audience skewed heavily male and older. Who, of course, that's what it was. Showing that the franchise has an inability to reach out to younger viewers. But they're not even trying to. Even Megan Fox's fans skew out of the 18 to 24 range at this point. The diversity demos, though, are at least healthy. But not only did Expendables 4 come in at half of its already extremely low prediction, which would have matched the last entry, which nobody was excited about, but now The Nun 2, which at first was looking kind of soft when it first opened because it opened so much lower than the first Nun, it's been the #1 movie for 3 weeks in a row, baby. James Wan could use some good news. He's like, I'll take it. And it seems that his Conjuring franchise, still the spine of his career, can still print money. And audiences just love horror. And 'tis the season, although horror now makes money consistently year round. Although The Exorcist is probably like, leave some bloody money for me. Still, the Exorcist brand is so big, I think it'll still do pretty good. I'm going to review it. I'm back in. I took a little bit of a break. It's been enough of a break. I'll go see The Exorcist, believer. It looks so gross. All right, so anyway, some of you love that stuff. Neon released their own horror film into the box office this weekend, and considering this is a small indie film from the festival circuit, this is a solid start and a nice little calling card for writer-director Bishal Dutta as his first feature. What did he pick? He picked horror. Very smart choice. Now, you'd think maybe that Stallone, Statham, and potentially Fox, although I don't think anything can embarrass Megan Fox anymore. But anyway, you would think they'd be a little bit embarrassed with the way this movie has been received. But you know what? They got paid. And as for Statham and Fox, this is business as usual for them. Statham is usually, not all the time, but a lot of his movies open in this range. And he doesn't care. Again, he just wants to make money. He wants to keep living his good life. And he's like, whatever it needs to do, I need to do to fuel it. Although the Meg 2 did manage to open at 30. So he can still, and everybody thought that was bad, but they hadn't seen nothing yet. The Meg 2, like a lot of these old school action movies, even Fast and Furious, by the way, which is cut from the same cloth and has also been run into the ground. We're going to talk about franchises being run into the ground in just a moment. But all those movies do a lot of movie business overseas, which is why they continue to get made. Particularly China. China seems to love this type of movie. The Meg made a lot of money overseas. Expendables 4 will surely do better overseas as well, but in China, where it's already been out for 2 weeks now, this was its second weekend, it's only at 20.8. That's pretty low. And remember, the studio only gets about a quarter of China's box office. They covet, then why do the studios care? Well, they love to get those big boosts to their box office numbers so they can have the headlines and they can dominate the charts. But then also, when a movie hits really big in China, a quarter of that is still a lot of money. So, and for a while there, Hollywood movies were making a lot of money in China. I don't know if they'll ever be able to go back, interestingly enough. Do you think so? I don't know. I think that, the Chinese government is very much, has their finger on the scale, and they hate Hollywood right now. So I don't know if it's possible. I think they like keeping Hollywood in this smaller box. All right, so Stallone, though, like Statham and Fox, they've never really built anything. Even Statham's just making money. He's a machine, that man. But Stallone, he's an icon, and I think he's been trying to preserve that. And he's running out of franchises, although partially because he's bleeding them dry, and he's not really doing a great job on quality control. Expect him to become even more rabid in his attacks against producer Irwin Winkler, to try and guilt Winkler into getting him to gift back the rights for Rocky to Stallone. You signed a contract, Stallone. You were a complete unknown at the time, and you got a deal that allowed Stallone to star in the movie that he'd written, which at that time, it's even unusual now, but at that time was pretty much unheard of. And Winkler and his business partners were the ones who financially, stood up for the movie and got the backing and were willing to mortgage their homes. And Stallone got a whole career out of it. And so, remember I told you signed the best contract you can at the time. And Stallone's like, what about my family? And I'm sure Irwin Winkler's like, what about my family? That's not how business is conducted. And also I have to say, to be honest, Stallone, I know some of you disagree with me on this, but it's not a reasonable business argument. And wouldn't Stallone just run Rocky into the ground like he has Rambo and the Expendables? It's not like, Rocky he would get right. Rocky still lives on, by the way, quite successfully as Creed. Creed 3, until the Jonathan Majors situation blew up, was doing very well, and it was a great movie. But that was largely thanks to the efforts of Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan, who reimagined and pivoted the franchise while still staying true to its roots, being huge Rocky fans themselves, which made it all the more tragic when their hero, Sylvester, I don't know if he was their hero, but they loved the Rocky movies, when Sylvester Stallone went up there and forgot to thank them when he won his Golden Globe for the first Creed. Karma! I know a lot of you tried to apologize for Stallone, but that was a horrible thing to do. Can you imagine poor Ryan Coogler? The whole reason he liked Rocky is because he and his dad used to watch those movies together, and he was able to do really something exciting with that franchise. And then Stallone went up there and totally forgot about him. That's just incredible. I really do believe karma. Woo! And Michael B. Jordan, of course, directed the latest installment of Creed and did a very nice job. Although I didn't like that, that anime section, but some people did. All right, so at least Stallone still has Tulsa King and reality show The Family Stallone. Both renewed for second seasons, by the way. Hey, that's money. Maybe Kenneth Branagh, by the way, should consider a streaming show or reality series. What would a Kenneth Branagh reality series be like? Although he had quite a bit of drama in his life earlier, if you look at his relationship with Emma Thompson. They were originally married and were creative partners until they were definitely not. Oh, it was very dramatic. Because Kenneth Branagh has certainly run his own series, the Poirot movies, into the ground as well. I mean, with their third franchise entries, he and Nia Vardalos are neck and neck. That's gotta be a wake-up call, Branagh. I would hope it would be. And the Equalizer 3 is treading water at the box office, basically staying afloat. So, I mean, the drop this week was not bad, but it's not going to make it to the century mark. Pretty much now you've got people just waiting, chomping at the bit for this thing to get to digital. Because here's the thing. This is a phenomenal film, and it's an audience favorite. It's got great scores, particularly from audiences across the board. So this underperformance, I think, is strictly due to the digital and streaming situation raising the bar regarding the type of movies that audiences are willing to pay to see in theaters. So even though The Equalizer 3 is fantastic, I think a lot of people now say, ooh, I can't wait to watch that on digital, or some of you streaming. Because it'll trickle down to Netflix eventually, but not for a while. It's a great movie. I hope you see it at some point. Dumb Money added approximately 600 more theaters this weekend, but it's clear that for this movie, most people are waiting for it to hit on digital and streaming, if watch it at all. Sometimes people don't like these inside business stories, about many different industries. So that might be the situation here. Now, Barbie and Oppenheimer, this is impressive, are both still in the top 10 weeks out, with strong holds, even though Barbie is now dominating on digital as well. Word is that Nolan won't let Universal put Oppenheimer on digital until November. He's like, I'm going to squeeze every bit of box office out of there. If he doesn't get to $1 billion, he's at 925 or something around there right now, it won't be for lack of trying. Whereas Barbie is now at 1.427 billion. Still hasn't caught up to Frozen first or second, one of the Frozens. It's still right behind Frozen on the worldwide chart. By the way, with the creator this coming weekend, Oppenheimer will finally lose all of its IMAX screens. Barbie took a lot of them this weekend, but Oppenheimer was still able to hold on to a few. But it will lose them all now, including the coveted AMC Lincoln Square IMAX, where it sold out for its entire run. Bravo, Nolan. That's an impressive feat. I mean, towards the end, I think it was a little bit easier to get a seat, but that thing, 4 shows a day, because it's like a 3-hour plus movie with trailers, sold out, even the 10 or 9 a.m. showings. That was incredible. All right, so nobody can take that away from you, Nolan. Speaking of streaming, starting with Nielsen as usual for about a month ago. Nielsen, so slow. It takes them so long. In today's tech-savvy world, I can't believe we have to wait a month for their numbers. But they're the only third-party game in town, so I guess we'll take what we can get when we can get it. But we finally have our first look at Ahsoka in the marketplace. We've been getting Disney Plus numbers, which are in-house numbers and only for the service. But now we see how it does against the competition. And the answer is pretty good. Particularly for Disney Plus's exciting new drop time, which is basically HBO's, of 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I mean, I know Nielsen looks at the whole week, and Ahsoka again started on a late Tuesday. But I think that this new drop time, particularly because Nielsen measures North America numbers, it creates a feeling of excitement and urgency about the show again. So I think that drop time is definitely a factor. But, Ahsoka is kind of on par with Obi-Wan. They're living in the same space, which of course came out back in May. I think people were far more disappointed with Obi-Wan, whereas some people are more excited about how Ahsoka's turning out, but not everyone, I think, gets it. So maybe that's why they're kind of in the same space, right? Although, of course, Obi-Wan is largely a character co-opted by Filoni at this point because he was such a big part of Clone Wars. And also, Filoni, his whole claim to fame at first was making people appreciate the prequels. He is George Lucas's apprentice, and he did right by his master, or Padawan or apprentice. He did right by his master by making a lot of people today, Star Wars fans, really love the prequels, which is an incredible feat. And also, while The Mandalorian was originally a far more popular show than both Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, interestingly, its season 3 debut was in the same ballpark. And that's when Filoni had pulled that show deeper into his universe, making The Mandalorian less of an original trilogy spinoff and more of a Filoni-verse show. So again, I don't know if this is the right path for Star Wars, but it's the path we're going down. And I like it. A lot of people really like it, even though I think the audience is smaller. But maybe big enough. What do you think? All right, so Ahsoka got 5th place on the overall chart. We'll take it. Suits has dropped below 3,000, but still reigns supreme. And it's got 2nd place on the originals chart. I have to tell you, that 2nd place, that's going to help Ahsoka a lot, because no matter what the number next to it is, 2nd on the originals chart is 2nd on the originals chart. And Disney Plus hasn't been that high up in a very long time. So they're going to be pleased. Disney Plus just might be beginning to claw its way back, in fact, with Loki coming up fast, season 2. And if these numbers hold for Ahsoka, will she get a season 2? I'm not sure. Maybe Filoni will switch gears to focus on his upcoming big movie, right? Which is expected to be a continuation of his Disney Plus live action work. Star Wars really needs to get back into the movie space at this point, and I would actually like to see them move to the Filoni-verse movie right now. What would you like? More Filoni-verse shows? Or let's get to this movie already. I think that they're at the perfect place for the movie. I mean, Ahsoka hasn't ended yet, but the way things are going, I think they're going to be at just the right place for this movie. Maybe one more season of something, because of the strike, I don't even know if Filoni's finished the script. But I'm ready for. The movie really I wish was ready to go like this summer, quite frankly, but it is not. All right, so anyway. Only Murders continues to post solid numbers, which are excellent numbers for Hulu, although the return of Futurama continues to be unable to get any traction. They fought over all that pay scale stuff for nothing. Although it was important, as you can see with the upcoming. Actually, that voice actor didn't even get a raise, which is why SAG is going on strike. It's a tough business. With movies, while Adam Sandler got his daughter to number 1 on the movies chart, this wasn't a good enough number to even make the bottom of the overall chart. So this is a mixed bag. All these numbers on the movies chart are pitiful. So that makes The Flash being 2nd place when it debuted on Max yet another embarrassment for that film. Could Aquaman 2 do worse? Is there a worse? There's definitely a worse. But it will be, for a blockbuster, it will be shocking. And like The Flash, it'll be a bigger story, I suspect, than the movie itself. That's where DC is right now. People are more interested in the demise of DC than what they have coming out. I was shocked that Vacation Friends got a sequel, although with this debut, will they make a 3rd? Although how many original Hulu movies do you ever see on this chart? So maybe they will make a 3rd Vacation Friends. You get that money, John Cena and Lil Ray. Over on Netflix's charts for just last week, they're much faster, but it's just their own data. Surprisingly, it's Haley Lou Richardson to have the first post-White Lotus season 2 hit, second reincarnation, because it was competing in limited series, which was cheating. They stuck it back in series now. It has to compete in drama. But anyway, with her new Netflix movie at a soft number 1, good for her. While Sandler and his daughter have only dropped to 2nd place in their 4th week. This movie, I'm telling you, he will do something else with his daughter on Netflix very, very soon. Probably as soon as the strike is over. I wouldn't be surprised if they announce something. Will it be a movie or a series? I would try and give her a series. All right, so anyway, people want to see her. With series, One Piece dropped about 50% in its 3rd week. It held steady the first 2 weeks at about 145,000 minutes. Now, as you can see, it's like 75. But it's still number 1, continuing to hold off for the 2nd week in a row, the very popular, but much less tweeted about, Virgin River. Seems Virgin River fans aren't on social media. Jamie Lee Curtis is campaigning for a role in One Piece Season 2, which slightly seems like scabbing to me. I don't see anybody else on the picket line shouting out what roles they'd like once the strike is over. But Jamie Lee Curtis is so wacky, and I think I think Jamie Lee Curtis, people kind of forgive her. I don't know. She seems to get away with it. I think she's always right on the line, man. But you know what? I think she will get that role, because the producer even said, because the producers, I guess, aren't on strike. The producer said, as soon as the strikes are over, I'll call your agent, Jamie Lee, which makes it seem even a little bit more scabby. But anyway, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. What do I always tell you? I think she's going to get it. Do you think that's a good idea? I don't really know if the fans of One Piece would care about Jamie Lee Curtis being in there, but their audience isn't huge. It's strong, but it's not huge. So maybe they need some bigger names like Jamie Lee Curtis to cross over and maybe get a little bit more people watching. Interesting. I'd be interested in your fan opinion, but also your business opinion. As for iTunes, Barbie continues her world domination tour, still at number 1. And while Bottoms was much higher just last night, in fact, today it's at number 6. So it might burn hot and bright on digital. Still, I think everyone associated with this film will get a career boost out of it, including writer-director Emma Seligman. Not a huge one, but you will definitely see them again. And Ayo Adebri's star continues to rise. And Past Lives, not only available now for just a $6 rental, but an editor's choice, is back in the top 10. That's a strong awards contender too, as I told you in my early Oscar video a couple of weeks ago. But I didn't love the movie. I watched it because it was such a strong Oscar contender. So as I said, I didn't love it, but I can see why some others do. I respect it, I guess, is what I would say. I could see it getting maybe a win, but I think this is another case of maybe more nominations than wins. But I do think it's worth watching. However, if you find yourself on the fence, maybe wait to see if it actually does get a ton of nominations, and then check it out. But it should be on your radar, especially at $6, which seems to have gotten a lot of people to click purchase. As for this coming week, your local multiplex is about to get busy, so maybe all these new movies will wake up the box office. Potential juggernauts Saw X and a new Paw Patrol movie, people love these things, hit theaters. Well, the creator does as well, taking over premium screens, and it hopes to connect with sci-fi fans. The review embargo lifts on Tuesday. I suspect the score will be quite high because it's an incredible film. But from a business perspective, it's not as well constructed, so I am nervous about what its box office numbers are going to look like. If you look at pre-sales, those theaters are mighty empty. Oh my goodness. What are you waiting for creator tickets? Are you waiting for that RT score? Are you waiting for reviews on Tuesday? Or are you like, I'm streaming it, or I'm going to get it on digital? And Dumb Money finally goes wide, still in theaters. We'll see if that makes a difference, even though it's probably already playing in a theater near you. I think if you really wanted to see Dumb Money, you would have seen it this weekend. I tried to go, but I tried to go down to the iPic downtown, but they had a kind of like a gas problem, and the theater had like a gas smell in it, so I couldn't stay. So, all right, I think at this point, I probably will just catch it on digital. All right, so on digital, speaking of digital, Blue Beetle becomes available on Tuesday to buy or rent, still probably a month or so out from being available on Max. Same for Scooby-Doo and Crypto 2. Will you make it a DC double feature? You know, with all due respect to both those movies, which I think Blue Beetle's good. Scooby-Doo and Crypto 2, that sounds cute. But boy, the DC brand is not where it should be. And look, My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3 is already cashing out at the box office and heading to digital as well. Well, she beats Bran out of the punch yet again. All right, so as for streaming movies, Wes Anderson's short film, it's only 39 minutes. What the heck is that? Hits Netflix on Wednesday. But will I watch it? Yes, I will. While on Friday, and I didn't watch Asteroid City because I heard it was like torture for most people, and I was like, I don't want to deal with it. But I'll check this out. Also, I love Benny C, and I love the rest of the cast so much. Dev Patel, Ben Kingsley. I'll watch that. All right, so anyway, well, on Friday, Apple TV has movie Flora and Son with Eve Hewson. I loved her on The Nick, but nobody watched that, which is a shame. So many of you might have seen her on Bad Sisters, where she was also excellent. That's Bono's daughter. So anyway, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is also in that movie. And then Netflix has star-studded thriller Reptile and Spanish language thriller Nowhere. As for series, some big stuff happening here too. Tuesday, Dancing with the Stars may launch on ABC and Disney Plus because it's technically a WGA show and they're forging ahead even though there's a picket line out front. So they're really hoping for this strike to be finished for the writers. SAG has already given them the go-ahead. SAG gives way too many people the go-ahead. Network reality TV fans. Usually I don't mention reality TV, but my favorite shows are back this week, or at least some of them. I'm still waiting on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills to return. But on Wednesday, I don't watch Survivor anymore, but The Amazing Race, both of those shows return. They're an hour and a half each, although I will be watching The Amazing Race on Paramount Plus the next day because I'm not starting an hour and a half show at 9:30 at night. Although sometimes I'm up late, so maybe I will, but I don't like that start time for The Amazing Race. The superior show, in my opinion. All right, that's the problem with network TV. You can't choose what you want to watch first because of the time slots garbage. All right, so Thursday, Castlevania Nocturne drops on Netflix. Starstruck Season 3. Never even heard of the show, but Season 3 is on Max. While on Friday, The Boys spinoff Gen V drops the first 3 episodes on Prime Video. The review embargo lifts on Wednesday. It's a good show. I'm excited to talk to you about it. I know, I can't believe it. Well, Shark Tank, I love Shark Tank, returns on ABC also on Friday. Oh boy. So that's this week's Movie Math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And do you think this week's upcoming movies will get the box office out of its slump? Share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.